What do you do when you realize that fighting for control doesn't work? I got to learn, but it was the hard way. And it has taken nearly all my life. When I was a kid, I dreamed of becoming a baseball player and a doctor, and I really went after those dreams, but my grandpa, he had a small 2-seat airplane that he used to like to fly over the farmlands of Oklahoma, and I remember flying with him one day when he told me that I could take hold of the yoke and fly the plane myself. Well, of course, I wasn't really flying the plane. I was 6, but I was hooked. And ever since that day, I have been just amazed by flight and dreamed of becoming a pilot. But there was something about becoming a pilot that made it seem like it could only be a dream. Like it was just too far out of reach to actually happen. But life has a way of making things happen that we'd never expect to actually come true. And several years ago, I did become a pilot. Yeah, let's celebrate. And one Friday morning, while I was working in my dental office, I got a text from a friend who says he has tickets to the World Series in Houston. It was my first World Series, and they were VIP tickets, and all I had to do was pick them up in Dallas. So the next day, another friend of ours jumped on board my plane. We flew to Dallas to pick up our buddy with the tickets, and we took off for Houston. But as we're coming up through 3,000 feet over the heart of Dallas, my plane starts to climb at a near vertical angle. So I immediately go into problem-solving mode, and I try my first fail-safe, which is to turn the autopilot off. It wouldn't go off. So I tried my second fail-safe. It didn't work either. So I tried my third fail-safe. Nothing. And I tried them over and over and over again because I'm looking almost straight up into the air. And if the plane goes any more vertical, it will stall right over the interstate that runs through the heart of the city, and it is full of innocent people just driving their cars and surrounded by dozens of corporate buildings. Well, the way to recover is to push the yoke forward to lower the nose of the plane. But whatever this problem is, it won't let me control the yoke. And even though I'm pushing forward with all my strength, it just keeps pushing back into me. And very quickly, I realize I'm in a fight that I cannot win. And without a way to recover from a stall, I have to prepare to crash. So I radio air traffic control and I tell them, I've lost control of the aircraft. I declare an emergency. When a pilot declares an emergency, all the other flights are diverted miles out of your way because no one knows what's about to happen next. And in heart-stopping words that my friends tell me that they will never forget, air traffic control asks me how many souls are on board. 3 souls. Me, 2 of my closest friends. The moment is coming at me very, very fast. And even though I'm doing everything that I can think to do, I know that it's not enough. But pulsing in my mind are words that my flight instructors have told me countless times. Never, ever stop flying the plane. So I keep pushing on that yoke, desperately trying to lower the nose, and at the same time, I'm troubleshooting with air traffic control. But nothing they say is helping. They don't have any answers, and it's starting to feel like we aren't even moving. The plane is losing more airspeed by the second, and like a roller coaster that slows as it reaches the top of its peak, we're about to fall. And I'm thinking, not only am I about to die, but I'm about to kill two of my closest friends. I'm about to kill who knows how many people on the ground, and all I can do is keep flying the plane. And I'm scared. I'm as scared as I've ever been in my life, before or since. But I have to keep flying the plane. Pilots keep flying all the way into the crash. Right beside my ear, the stall warning is going off. And I've trained for stalls lots of times, but never when the yoke is jamming into my chest. Never when my back is pinned to the seat. Never when most of the critical buttons on the instrument panel are out of reach. And never when the part that isn't working can't be turned off. What do you do when the solutions that you know don't work? And not only do they not work, they're working against you. As the plane's speed is bottoming out, I feel it start to flutter like that. And that means we're completely out of time. Our roller coaster has reached the top of its peak. We are going over the edge. And in less than a second, we will be in an actual nose-diving death spiral. Then it happens. I hear a big pop come from the back of the plane, like something just broke, which something else that never happened in my training, and immediately we start to drop. But we're not falling. Instead of spiraling down, we're looking straight ahead, and just like that, we're flying, which is about the most awesome feeling in the world, right? Except, I don't know what that pop was. I know I don't want to hear another one. But for the moment, that pop seems to have given me back the control. So I radio air traffic control and I tell them, it appears that control has been reestablished. So they ask me, what do I want to do? Keep flying the plane or turn around and land? In other words, pilot, make a decision. Now that you have control, do you have what you need to fly? The answer is no. I don't have what I need to fly. Not when I don't know what put us in that position. Something is clearly wrong with the airplane, and just because it may seem like I have control right now doesn't mean that I've resolved the problem. And if something like this were to happen again, I need to know how to predictably win the fight for everyone's sake. So I chose to land. And when we touched down on that runway, obviously we sighed some serious relief. But the story wasn't over. And I knew it. Because I knew I was going to have to talk about it. And that's the last thing I wanted to do. Because even though I wanted to believe that I had done everything right, situations like this are almost always the pilot's fault. I know it. Every pilot knows it. Nearly every crash requires not just one mistake, but a series of mistakes that the pilot makes. And regardless of fault, the flight was my responsibility. So I was going to have to explain this to the FAA and to my family, and my friends were going to have to explain it to their families. And, word has a way of getting around, and I'm not in control of that either. So even though we were able to land, and I'm thankful for that, it was without even so much as a scratch, I just felt so lost and confused and sad and angry. But most of all, just crushingly ashamed. I mean, how could I get us in that position? I always try so hard to do everything right, and just the flight from home to Dallas had gone perfectly, but what? 10 minutes later, I'm in the biggest mess of my life? It just didn't make any sense. But over the next couple of months, while my plane was in the shop, I started to learn about what happened. First, I learned that the pop, it was a cable designed to pop loose, a fourth fail-safe built into the plane when, even though the first three really should have worked, life has a way of making things happen that you'd never expect to actually come true. And I learned that while I was fighting with the yoke, I wasn't engaging the source of the problem. There were two fights on the flight. The fight I was in and a fight I couldn't see. But the fight I couldn't see was the source of the problem. The fight I was in was secondary. And as I began to take more and more hold of that, I found that the fight for control is often secondary to a fight with shame. Because it was shame that wouldn't let my story end even after we were safe on the ground. And it's often shame that tells us that our mistakes define not only who we are, but who we can never become. And it's often shame that tells us that the way to survive is to control who knows our story. My story, your story, all of our stories. But if you would have asked me before all of this happened, I would have told you my life had nothing to do with shame. Because I didn't recognize the fight that was hidden from my view. I would have denied it because I didn't believe it. And I would have been wrong. Shame can be subtle. Shame can be stealth. And before we even see it coming, shame leads us to stall. You know, sometimes I wonder if what we learn the hard way is what we're meant to never, ever forget. Maybe the lessons that we best hold on to are the ones that we have to fight and fight to learn. But I know that this fight that almost killed me also changed my life, because it has shown me that crash or no crash, shame's hidden influence can't be allowed to survive. We're not meant to live like that. And that's a big part of why I'm sharing this with you. Look for the second fight. Don't let shame hide from you. It will be at the root of where you feel pressure. It will be at the core of your limiting beliefs. It will be underneath the questions that your life seems to continually need to answer, but make a decision to get in that fight for you and for everyone around you. Because when we fight against shame, we fight for our minds, and we fight for our hearts, and we fight for a safer world. And as for the game, we drove. Thank you.